It began on New Year's Day. Thousands of dead blackbirds rained down on an Arkansas neighborhood, like a scene out of Alfred Hitchcock's horror movie, The Birds. Experts say they died from blunt force trauma in the air. But what caused the trauma is a mystery. Then, as many as 2 million dead fish in Maryland. But the mystery is not just in the US. In the UK, 40,000 velvet crabs littered the coast. Brazil, 100 tons of lifeless fish floated. And in Sweden, jackdaws fell in the dead of the night.
We reached the hill half an hour earlier and the road was completely clean. Then after half an hour the road was black and we became aware that the road was covered with dead birds or dying birds.
Next came Italy. Over 700 turtle doves fell, echoing the Arkansas bird deaths. Some lay hanging in the trees.
Here is one still alive. It let us take it, which isn't normal. This dove has a few hours of life left.
Across the world, the bizarre phenomena of creatures raining down or washing up on shore has mystified scientists. For the 2 million dead fish in Maryland, they do have an answer.
Our theory is that there was a very rapid temperature drop. Obviously, these are a type of fish that are susceptible to cold temperatures, but there was a very rapid drop.
Poisoning, pollution, the cold snap, or something more sinister. If only birds could talk, the surviving ones would have a story to tell. Conspiracy theorists have had a field day, with talk of the end of the world being nigh. Only one thing is certain: the mystery of these mass deaths is yet to be solved. Tazeen Ahmed, NBC News, London.
January 7th, 2011.
Good evening, I'm Cynthia McFadden. We begin tonight with an environmental mystery. Hundreds of turtle doves turned up dead in the parks and streets of a town in northern Italy today. And scientists don't know what killed them. Maybe not news that would normally cross the globe, except that this is at least the 6th bizarre incident of its kind in the first week of the new year. And that's not to mention all the dead crabs and fish. So what's going on?
Mike? New at 10, the Portage County Humane Society is investigating the death of 200 cows. The cattle were discovered at a field on 4th Avenue in the town of Stockton. The owner had been working with a veterinarian. It's believed the animals died of a virus that can cause respiratory and reproductive problems. Samples from the dead animals have been sent to Madison for testing. Investigators say there is no threat to people or other animals.
Thousands of fish were found dead on the shores of the Yamuna River at a holy site on the riverbanks in Madras City, India. Priests and locals have blamed the fish deaths on the dumping of industrial waste and chemicals that flow into the river.
5,000 birds to date have been found. Within 126 miles in a river, there's been large sums of fish that has came to the surface. And we also have lots of other different reports. We have bats being found dead. We have drumfish. We have manatees. We're going to go to a map at this point. We're going to show some different areas where these birds and animals have been coming up found dead. We'll go to the map, and as you can see here, it's all across the eastern side of the United States. We're going to click on a few of these. We've got dozens of fish. We'll move in a little bit closer so we can see more of a territory where these are at. There's our 70 bats that have been found out in Arizona. We have down in Louisiana, we got over 500 blackbirds that have been found dead. And this we have that's our 5,000 blackbirds that have started all out in the town of Beebe, Arkansas. We have over 100,000 drumfish, which is 126 miles away from Beebe. Along the east coast of Florida, we've got manatees that have been found coming up on shore that have all been dead. We've got several fish, different types of fish, thousands of fish all along through there. Moving on up through, as you can see in North Carolina, we have 100 pelicans that have been found dead. Moving on up into going up into the Michigan area, we've got hundreds of fish. If we go down to the Maryland, up just a little bit there, and that's our pelicans up Right there, we got tens of thousands of fish. These fish have been found on the Chesapeake Bay. Numerous amounts of these fish have been found with their eyes removed from their bodies.
Towns that first started off the animal die-offs: Gilbertsville, Kentucky, Beebe, Arkansas, and LaBarre, Louisiana. And it shows the focal point in between the 120-degree area, and it just so happens that that focal point sits right above the most active region of the New Madrid seismic zone. Okay? So, and having said all that, let me go ahead and get this next picture up. Sorry, my screen capture software slows my computer down. Right here we have the locations of Digison receivers around the world. Okay? And I'm sure this isn't all of them, but these are the ones that are reported. So, and then when you put in the animal die-offs, and I'm sure this has been updated since, anywhere these Digison receivers line up is where there have been animal kills. So, and moving on, this is a map used by originally produced by Edgar Casey and used by the Air Force. It's called the Navy. I'm sorry. It's now used for, I guess, to show soldiers what the coastlines of America will look like. And if you have a hard time believing that, I want you to pay real close attention to the center of the United States here. That's the Mississippi Valley. Okay, this is what Edgar Casey had projected. Now I'm going to show you a real-time picture, like an updated computer image of the same event. You see that? Now, do you? Let me go right here, and do you see this? This is about the area that BP oil well was drilling, and you see where that rift or fault line comes out at Louisiana and Mississippi. Well, that oil rig was drilling not too far from there, and where it drilled actually created a big amount of instability in this fault zone. So, and having said that, I'll move on to the next picture.
Earth's magnetic fields may be causing bird and fish die-off. Could the Earth's magnetic fields be causing the recent die-off of thousands of birds and fish? Scientists believe so, along with environmental imbalances. The sudden death of thousands of blackbirds in Arkansas over the 2010 to 2011 New Year's holiday last weekend was newsworthy enough. Within a couple of days, hundreds of stories from all around the globe recounted similar phenomena. Not only have blackbirds been falling out of the sky, but many species of birds, as well as reported cases of bat deaths in Arizona. In addition, there are numerous reports being gathered from around the world about massive fish die-off, and die-off of many different sea animals. What could be causing these deaths? Some researchers believe that changes in the Earth's magnetic fields are to blame. The Earth's magnetic fields, what they are and how birds use them to migrate. The Earth's magnetic field is similar to that of a bar magnet with north and south poles. The magnetic field causes a bubble around the Earth which protects it from solar winds, asteroids, and other objects in space. Scientists believe the magnetic poles are due to electric currents that come from the Earth's core. The circulating electric current creates a dynamo effect, which is caused, in part, by the rotation of the Earth's axis. A dynamo effect is similar to what happens with an electric generator. When the magnetic field interacts with particles from solar winds, it creates what is known as the aurora borealis near the poles. Scientists at Goethe Universität in Frankfurt, Germany, have discovered that a bird can see the Earth's magnetic fields through photoreceptor cells in the bird's right eye. Birds use this navigational tool to migrate north and south during the autumn and spring. Before this discovery, it was believed that birds could sense the magnetic field either through their eyes or beaks. These photoreceptor cells create shades of light which tell the birds if they are on or off course during migration. Could the Earth's magnetic fields be causing the die-off of thousands of birds? The Goethe Universität study revealed that if birds could not see the magnetic field when migrating, they lost their bearings and could hurt themselves or even die. NASA reported in 2008 that there was a massive breach in the Earth's magnetic field, detected by Themis spacecraft. Solar wind can flow through this breach, causing enormous geomagnetic storms. It is very possible that such a geomagnetic storm is responsible for the current deaths of thousands of birds across the planet. Magnetic storms can cause many different phenomena to occur. Not only do birds, such as the reported blackbirds, pelicans, penguins and eagles, lose their bearings and fall dead from exhaustion and hunger, but radio transmissions can be lost. There can be radiation from too much solar power, and high-energy charged particles can bombard the Earth due to the breach in the magnetic shield wrapping the planet. Magnetic storms can also trigger changes in the Earth's crust, which may lead to increases in landslides, mudslides, earthquakes, and volcano eruptions. What about the fish kills? Are the fish and bird die-offs related? It may be possible that the fish and bird die-offs are unrelated. Arkansas Game and Fish Commission spokesman Keith Stevens believes that in the drumfish case, it could just be a disease, since it only affected one species. He says fish kills are not unusual. However, fish kills are being reported all across the world. Panama reports at least 100 tons of several species of fish found dead all along its coast. Officials there suspect an environmental imbalance, possibly due to the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Italy claims a massacre of fish, clams, and crabs over Christmas, but blame nearby industries. Similar fish kills are being reported in other cities. According to ScienceDaily.com, sea creatures such as sharks, crabs, salmon, and sea turtles not only use magnetic fields to navigate, but also to detect their prey. So it is entirely possible that some of the recent deaths of not only fish, but sea animals like starfish and dolphins are due to changes in the Earth's magnetic fields.
When most people hear North Pole, they think of Santa Claus, and while he'll always be at the very top of the world,
there's also a magnetic pole which is produced by fluctuations or flow of iron in the core of the Earth.
Dr. Chris Connor of USF explains that the constantly moving molten iron acts like a giant car alternator, creating a magnetism on a planetary scale with a magnetic north and South Pole.
But over the last few decades, it's been moving, and now it's moved all the way from northern Canada into northern Siberia.
Which means what your compass shows as north in Tampa Bay isn't really north. And this is a problem for airports.
When a pilot navigates, he needs to find what's the correct runway to land in or take off on, so he uses his compass in his cockpit to orient himself. They'll tell him that he's on the correct runway.
Robert Burr of TIA says runway 36 originally pointed due north to 360 degrees, or it did before the magnetic shift. Now it points just right at 10 degrees north, even though physically it hasn't moved. This may only be a temporary fix. Several times per million years, Earth's magnetic pole does a full flip. At first, it becomes disorganized, with new poles popping up in odd places like the equator, bringing the green and red northern lights to the skies of Florida. The last shift was over 700,000 years ago, leaving some to say we're due.
Some people have speculated that there's a shift beginning,
which may explain this recent fluctuation. But because our lifetimes are a blink of an eye in the geological timescale, it's too soon to tell.
Birds navigate by compass direction, an internal compass, which some theorize they do. If, in fact, the poles shift, it's possible, and this is obviously not going to happen now, but maybe in a couple hundred years or longer, we don't really know. It's possible you could have Canadian geese migrating to Hawaii.
Dealing with pole shift. And yes, the poles of the planet have moved and are always moving a little bit, but now they're moving a lot more than they've been recorded in the last 80 years or so, since the 1920s, when the establishment, the scientific establishment, around 1910, 1920, you see the studies began following the poles. They've really only got about 50 years or so of accurate readings, but in the last 50 years, these are the biggest movements ever recorded. We don't know what's happening. Change is the only constant in this universe, and hence on terra firma, our little blue-green jewel orbiting the sun 2/3 of the way out on the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy. And I wonder if we could pay Al Gore or the UN or the Rothschilds a tax, and they'll wave a magic wand and stop any pole shift.